um, to make sure that good data was being collected. And I believe that that is what has led us to be able to view COVID-19 through that disaggregated data that shows how communities of color in Maine have been disproportionately affected by that infection. We also supported the legislation to include Maine African American history and culture in our curriculum. And there is also a piece of legislation to ask for impact studies done for policies to make sure that when you're writing policy, that people are thinking about and measuring, predicting, asking the questions of how it will impact vulnerable populations, how it will impact Indigenous Black Mainers. And so, again, I was only, I was just a person sitting at the table, and I was there, as I said, as a literacy advocate, but I got to see a legislator with lots of experience and who has been doing this work for decades, whose family has actually been doing this work for decades before her. And so I had sort of this up close view of how policy can be used strategically to dismantle institutional racism. So to answer the question, I begin by saying, number one, I would get behind the leaders in our community who are already doing this work, and we have some very good ones. So when you talk about the importance of listening to affected people, that's where we should begin. All right. So we look at the work that they have already done, and when we do look at that work, what we see are the patterns of good work. Number one, increasing awareness through education, including curriculum, so that people understand history that has been left out. In Portland, we could echo that legislation with a specific initiative to document and share Portland specific Black history, and we could also echo the legislation to collect data in Portland, so that when we turn to evaluate how we're doing or look at impact, we have the information to inform that it isn't just something that we say we think this is happening. We can actually show it. And then third, to echo the policy to ask for impact studies when policy is written in Portland, to carefully consider all of the ways in which what we're doing might disproportionately affect people. And so, so that's where I began, just based on that experience, and sort of acknowledging the importance of doing that work, acknowledging where we are based on the evidence that's already out there, and then and how to get there through policymaking. And then the last thing I would say is that policy can't change society. That's work that we have to do together. And again, that's why I really think that work that has been done by Rachel Talbot Ross in the Maine legislature is essential, because it begins with that piece of education and awareness that can lead us to a better place, so that we have a shared understanding to change our values.
So Jim, you have the next question.
Yeah, I've been working with homeless rights justice for 20 years, trying to ensure that people directly impacted are involved in the policy making decisions that affect their lives. 3 times we've had homeless rights justice State House Day in Augusta, and we had 3 sit-downs with a bunch of homeless people with Governor Paul LePage. And we've also, when there's been an issue going before Portland City Council that affect the homeless community, we've negotiated with Ox Street Shelter so people from the shelter could come up and testify and still retain their beds at the shelter. So what work would you do to incorporate unhoused people and people in poverty into your decision making as a city councilor?
And just a reminder to try to keep the answers to 2 minutes.
Oh, okay, sorry. You know, I would be committed to do the things that are my habit. I think I already said that, you know, that I always begin with listening. Obviously, I talk a lot and have gone over probably on all my answers. So I'll try and be brief on this, but just to say that, you know, I am a trained listener, not a talker. And so, you know, I'll always, you know, I'll always be available to people. And, you know, I think I've said that it is my habit to make sure that I'm being considerate of people who are being impacted by decisions that I make.
And Carolyn, you have the last question.
Okay, if you are elected to the City Council, will you work and vote to uphold the City of Portland's long-standing 35-year commitment to provide emergency shelter to every person in our city who needs it?
Yes, of course, of course.
Well, thank you very much for speaking with us today. We're excited to share your answers with our community.
Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you for coming.